Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of Family Wealth and Other Musings. My name is Becky Easton, and I'm your host. I'm a personal family lawyer licensed in Arizona and Colorado. And this podcast is an attempt to get some general legal information out to you, largely wrapped around estate and business planning. And just remember that this isn't specific legal advice for you. So if there's something that kind of piques your interest or makes perks your ears up, then I definitely encourage you to talk with an attorney near you. You can find a personal family lawyer at personalfamilylawyer.com. And as always, if you're in Arizona or Colorado and you'd like to discuss something further with me, you can always hop on my calendar by going to bit.ly/call Easton Law. So today I want to talk a little bit about title insurance. And this is something that I bet you have not really thought very much about. Even if you have bought a house, then what you probably did was just take your realtor's advice on the title insurance policy to buy, and really didn't compare policies. Didn't really think about why you might want to take one policy over another, or even that there were options as to which policy to take. And I have to say that I am not as informed as I'd like to be when it comes to title insurance. And I mean, of course, I don't work in that field or anything, so it's not surprising, I suppose, that I would have a little bit to learn about it. But yeah, I mean, definitely, I've purchased 2 houses, and I couldn't tell you the first thing probably about either of those title policies. So there is another podcast called Is That Even Legal? That I listen to quite frequently. I've kind of been binging through it. It looks like it started, right before COVID. It's a monthly podcast by Attorney Bob Sewell, who's a partner at the law firm of Davis Miles McGuire Gardner here in Arizona, and I'm just really enjoying it. I always love listening to other people who are in similar fields. Bob specifically works in probate litigation, and so when a planner like me has drafted doesn't come through for the family, then Bob comes in and helps after the fact. So of course, I'm always hoping that none of my clients are going to end up in litigation after the fact, but that every now and then it's going to happen. Things are not going to happen like they're supposed to, or like you plan them, and you just sometimes end up in litigation. But anyway, it's really fascinating listening to people talk, especially when they come down the line from me. It's really easy, or I really enjoy learning from those experiences, right? Because I can fix it, or I can try to fix it for my clients on the front end by hearing what went poorly on the back end. So anyway, Bob's podcast, Is That Even Legal? Was started because he kept getting that exact question from his clients. And so he has an episode from back in February of 2022 about primarily about dirty deeds and title theft. But they talked a whole lot about title insurance. And so the primary benefit and kind of where my knowledge stood as far as title insurance went is that it would protect you from any prior issues with the title to your house. So if you purchase the property and then somewhere down the line someone was like, oh, just kidding, I own the property, not you, then your title insurance policy is likely going to cover you and allow you to defend that claim. And one thing I did not realize, though, was that there's coverage for later fraudulent transfers that happen. And this is something that you might have heard about more. You probably hear ads for some sort of title protection on the radio, but people can forge your signature on a deed conveying the property to themselves and then sell it and making some sort of money to somebody else who then has purchased a fraudulent title at this point. And in a couple of the stories they were talking about, someone just showed up at the house and said, I own this house now, we are going to evict you. The proper owner was a little confused by that statement and fortunately was able to go reach out to their attorney and get the matter settled. And where that comes in is that where the title insurance aspect comes in, is that there are some policies that for, a few extra dollars when you're purchasing the policy at closing, it will also protect you from fraudulent transfers after signing, whereas many stop at signing. It's just anything that had happened before that. And with this type of crime getting more prevalent, at least it tends to happen with properties that are vacant, kind of second homes, things like that. But also, one thing I found really interesting about title insurance was that you may want to consider, especially in today's real estate market, you may want to consider, if it's been a few years, talking to the company and purchasing a new policy, because it may not actually cover any sort of replacement value now. Or if you've owned the home for a long time, maybe you bought it back in the 1900s and your title insurance policy only covers, say $50,000 or $80,000, and if something happens to your home now and it's worth, it's worth $200,000, $300,000, $400,000, then it's not going to give you full coverage there, and you're not going to get quite enough value out of your policy. And so that was another thing I didn't know, that you could even consider revisiting that policy at some point in time. So definitely, I'd recommend reaching out or figuring out who has your title policy. You can also, a lot of times, if you don't have those documents available, what you can do is look up your deed of trust online, and if it's available on the recorder's website, and see who did the closing for your home, and then you can usually go back to that company and ask about the policy. But again, things that I hadn't really thought about. Home title fraud is happening when someone is obtaining the title to your property changing ownership from your information to theirs, oftentimes you don't know for quite some time, and maybe you start getting notified about bills that aren't being paid, or all of a sudden you get a foreclosure notice because there was a mortgage taken out and it's not being paid. They are able to gather your personal information from the internet or elsewhere, take over your identity, and claim to represent you. And it's nearly impossible to stop bad actors, right? They are out there, and they're going to be bad actors if that's what they're set on doing. And so the one thing you want to be sure is that you are protecting yourself from all the angles, right? Making sure that you have insurance to cover yourself in that event. Making sure that you're checking in on your county recorder's website to see if there is a service you can sign up for that will let you know about any changes in any new recordings against your property. This is a service that I know is available in Yavapai County here in Arizona, and several other states I know across the nation. I haven't double checked to see if it's available here in Maricopa County or whatnot, but definitely check. There are a lot of services that you can pay to monitor this information for you, but you don't necessarily need to. A lot of times this information is free and publicly available. And another one of the recommendations that Bob and his guest Jesse Woolnick had on this particular podcast were to continue to check your credit report, regularly, and check in on the recorder's website to see if anything else has pulled up. And sometimes you can also see information from the assessor's website because it'll show the new owner of the property or where tax bills are going. So again, that was from the podcast, Is That Even Legal? By Attorney Bob Sewell, partner at Davis Miles, and highly recommend this one. His is about monthly. Remember that, which was far too overwhelming for me, and instead I decided I'd do a daily podcast. Yep, well, Bob's is about monthly. I think there are a couple episodes that are a little bit closer together, but and he's been rocking it since right before COVID, like I said. So there are some really great episodes, lots of good information there, and some really great guests that he has had on. So definitely check that one out. You can get to the podcast by going to evenlegal.com. It's always great to know that there are other people out there doing fun and interesting content, legal content for you. And as always, I definitely want to thank you for tuning in to another episode here of Family Wealth and Other Musings. I'm your host, Becky Easton, and I will talk to you more tomorrow. Have a great day.